Welcome back. You're watching The Firm. Now, RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan has termed them as freeloaders, and one estimate pegs their impact on the banking system at 84,000 crore rupees. I'm talking willful defaulters, and now it seems SEBI would like to tighten the noose on them as well. Here's Paiswini with more details on that development.
The who, what, how of willful defaulting is governed by the RBI. It prescribes action against those defaulters tagged as willful defaulters by banks. The tag of willful defaulter shuts access to bank finance, but the door is wide open on capital market finance. So SEBI has now proposed to shut that door too. In a discussion paper, SEBI has suggested that a willful defaulter company and its promoter director should not be allowed to make a public issue of equities or non-convertible redeemable preference shares. The market regulator has also suggested that existing listed companies, their promoters, group companies and directors tagged as willful defaulters should also not be allowed to take control over other listed entities. It has, however, suggested that the route of rights issue and private placement to QIBs be kept open.
In recommendation 4, they may please clarify that any form of a preferential allotment, why only limited to a preferential allotment to a QIB? I mean, a preferential allotment to the promoter itself should also be allowed, and I believe that is the intention. SEBI doesn't want to restrict that. You have said preferential allotment to a qualified institutional buyer. The question may arise, is that qualified institutional buyer again having access to public funds? So the question of directly or indirectly may needs to be addressed if we want to be make it very strict.
To my mind, essentially what we need to see is that the willful defaulter system comes into play by all of the lenders to act simultaneously rather than putting each of the lenders through the paces to act independently, and obviously with a specific timeline which, if not met, would also have perhaps adverse consequences for the lenders themselves, because the reality is that lenders, when they do not act in a manner which is required to be acted upon for the benefit of their own stake, so to speak, are, to my mind, guilty of dereliction of duty, and that too is something that must effectively be addressed by the existing regulations in such modified form as is deemed appropriate.
In effect, they are going to be relying on determinations made by a bank, which is obviously not a SEBI regulated entity, and thereafter prescribe consequences. Some might say penal consequences, but basically consequences for based on a determination by a bank. That said, I think the inherent ability for borrowers, promoters, directors to challenge the willful defaulter tag continues to be available. The challenge will not be through the SEBI or SAT system. It will have to be through the court system, as we saw in the case of Kingfisher a few months ago.
That happened when in September last year, United Bank declared Vijay Mallya and 3 other directors of Kingfisher Airlines as willful defaulters. But the Calcutta High Court came to Mallya's rescue when it told UBI that the empowered committee deciding on the willful defaulter status should have 3 members instead of 4 as per the RBI guidelines. Soon after, RBI's master circular on willful defaulters faced some dilution in the Gujarat High Court. The court held that the directors who are not involved in the day-to-day functioning of a company cannot be tagged as willful defaulters and consequently not restricted to avail of bank capital for new ventures. Taking a cue from adverse judicial outcomes, the RBI has now revised its master circular to include a more robust process for determination of willful defaulters and a stringent threshold to prove liability of non-whole-time directors.
Earlier it was just one committee, now there's a review by another committee within the bank, a higher, more powerful committee within the bank itself. There are terms that are used now like show cause notices. So there are terms that are used like opportunity to the borrower and the promoters to be personally heard. So to me, the key lies in making in banks basically making sure that their own internal system is sort of clear, it's detailed, it's systematic, and absolutely in line with what the regulatory provisions are. Similar in some sense to what we saw happening with the Sarfazi. Initially we saw right after the Sarfazi had been promulgated that there were a slew of cases that were actually thrown out where the banks had tried to take action under 13(2) on the basis that certain technical requirements under the Act were not actually followed. So banks get that right now. I don't think you see as many sort of cases being thrown out on technicalities anymore, and the reason for that is because banks have learnt their lesson from cases where lacunae and flaws had been detected, technical defects had been noticed. And thereafter, they got their systems in place to make sure that those didn't happen again. So I think a similar kind of an approach is going to be required by the banks in the context of willful defaulters as well.
Firstly, I don't see any realistic timelines within which the willful defaulter mechanism is liable to be triggered by banks and financial institutions. I do not see any kind of definitive process which would effectively preclude challenges of the kind that we have seen in recent times to the willful defaulter tag being applied to willful defaulters by banks. So to the extent that we could have all of that process perhaps streamlined and therefore effectively precluded from challenges in court, perhaps that might allow for the entire process to be more efficiently pursued.
While the efforts of the regulators to deal with willful defaulters are laudable, issues like court challenges on lack of process and merit, absence of timelines for willful defaulter determination, and no common platform for joint action by all the lenders can considerably undermine the regulatory regime that the RBI and SEBI are hoping to put in place. In Mumbai, Paiswini Upadhyay.
Well, with that, we're at the end of our time. But before I go, I'd like to say, we told you so. SEBI has finally decided to relax that 25% public participation threshold for delisting. Just last week, SEBI Chairman UK Sinha had spoken to the firm about it. I want to come to a set of regulations that the SEBI board has approved changes to, and that's the delisting regulation. You have been asked this question a few times in the last few months. I'm going to ask it to you yet again. There was hope that when SEBI started out to rework the delisting regulations, that you might even go the full radical way by rethinking the reverse book building method. That was put to death when your discussion paper came out and you said the reverse book building method is here to stay. What you have done in the new delisting regulations, based on what the board papers were, is that you have imposed a new requirement or threshold of a 25% public participation in the delisting. I understand why you've done it. I've called it the Fresenius Kabi cure. Okay? You may not agree with the phraseology, but that's what I've called it. But this, most bankers and companies say, will make delisting impossible to do.
If you look at data in the past, there have been cases where people have been able to get away with delisting by having 2 or 4 or 6 shareholders coming in. I don't think it is a fair arrangement. That should not be permitted. The question is 25% possible? And the answer is yes, because this 25% is not of the entire public shareholding. This is 25% of those shareholdings which have been dematted.
Yes.
However, I am on record having saying that this is one matter on which we have received representations, and in due course we are willing to look at it.
Okay, I'll tell you why, because this is the data investment banker shared with me, which is that mostly in the delistings that have taken place so far, they've noticed that the public participation has been south of 10%, so less than 10%. And so therefore they said to be able to double that and more to meet a SEBI threshold might be very difficult, but like you've said, you're open to reconsideration. We'll take that as an encouraging sign of potential change.
Let me clarify this. I'm open to reconsideration in due course, that yes. I stand committed, but let me also, the example you gave was south of 10%, but does it only indicate that 10% should be the limit? Does it also not indicate that there was no pressure on the promoter to reach out to more investors?
Maybe.
Because they were not reaching out, so that is our understanding.
They
were not trying to reach out to people. So we are now saying that you please reach out to people, get some more percentage.